that, I have been a participant in starting 6 businesses. Um, the most recent one we sold a couple of years ago in February. And at that time I became a business coach, which is what I'm doing here now. Helping me here is Casey Case. Casey, you can stand up and tell people who you are. So when things don't work, technically it's his fault.
Yeah, you can blame that on me, for sure. So, yes, my name is Casey Case, and I own a marketing company, web marketing company in the Oklahoma City area. Have helped about 100 different companies with their web marketing to be successful and to get more clients and get more phone calls.
Okay. Thanks, Casey. One of the things, you have the ability to chat on the lower left part of your screen, and please do. I encourage questions. It helps rather than watch me drone on and just lecture. That's not the idea. We'd like to have questions asked and be interactive. Want to start out with kind of who's attending, just so people know. We've got one financial service person here, assisted living. We have information services, land services, insurance, retail clothes. We have 2 internet sales companies, 4 manufacturers, software development firm, real estate, home health care, embroidery and promotions. We have an architect here, internet development, pipeline and insulation services company, and a salon. And I may have forgotten some, but that's who. So we have a myriad of different businesses out here. And one of the things that people ask me when we talk about marketing for businesses, my business is such and such, so it's different. Or my business is such and such, so it's different. All marketing can be tailored to a market, but marketing is really the same. As we go along, I'd like to say again that the intent is that we change over time. You can ask questions by chatting. At the end of this session, we're going to turn on the audio feed so you can ask questions audio. We'll see how that works. We've not done that before, and there may be feedback. We'll just see what happens here. But you can also email your questions to questions@coachmartinholland.com. Okay, so questions@coachmartinholland.com. So there will be some things to do at the end of the class before the next class, and they may prompt you to have questions about what's the homework or questions about something I've said. This video will be posted also on the website, coachmartinholland.com, so you can watch me again and listen to me again, which I'm sure will be quite a thrill. We're going to post some materials starting today to that website, and so your homework will be available to print off at the website. We'll be putting vocabulary up there, some of the what we kind of call analysis materials that you'll use on your companies, and some of the things that I'll be talking about today. If you see me looking over here to the wall, it's because I have a little outline. Normally, we do this kind of thing with PowerPoint, and the purpose of PowerPoint is to give you an outline. And I thought rather than do death by PowerPoint over the internet, we'll watch me and my drawing capabilities, but I still need the outline, so that's what I'm doing over here. As a business coach, hi Kathy, come on in. As a business coach, there are 3 things that I have almost universally found to be missing when I go to talk to a new client. One of the first things is a vision for the company. And by that I'm not referring to some highfalutin esoteric thing that you put on your internet for people to say, oh my goodness. I'm just talking about a vision for where your company's going. What's the idea? Are we going to dominate the local market? Are we going to dominate the state? Are we going to dominate the region? Am I building this up to take it to a public company? Am I going to sell it? Kathy, there's coffee making right there. Thank you. What are we doing with the company? The second thing that is almost universally missing is books of account. In other words, accounting, bookkeeping records sufficient to make managerial decisions. Almost everybody has books sufficient to keep taxes or keep a track of their bank account and pay taxes, but not to make managerial decisions. And the third thing that's universally missing is any sort of a marketing plan. Anybody in the room here have a marketing plan? And by that I mean a budget, an intent, a purpose, a target market, and so on. So that's the purpose of this class right here, is to take that section of the three things that are almost always missing and put some organization to it and help you all create a method to generate leads. The reason that we want to have a plan, and I think some of you have been to my classes before, have seen this. 14. From the book, hopefully does that show up well? We're testing all this as we go along. From the book, What They Don't Teach You in Harvard Business School. I can't remember the name of the man who wrote it. I can find that out for you. But he did an analysis. They followed 1,000 businesses owned by people who had graduated from Harvard Business School. And this 3% had written plans, 14% had plans but not written, and 83% had no plans. So 3% had written plans, 14% had plans that they understood and had talked about, 83% had no plans at all. This 3% controlled 98% of the net worth of all those companies. And they out-earned, this 3% out-earned this 8 or 97%, 10 to 1. Now there's some cause and effect, correlation type things there, but it's pretty powerful evidence that if you have a plan and execute it, you're going to achieve more than your peers. That pertains to marketing plans as well as regular business plans. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying to take advantage of the benefits of having a plan. I have a son, he's 31 now, but when he was 9 or 10, something like that, he took Taekwondo classes. We probably have kids who do that. But they have in Taekwondo forms, you know, steps that you have to go through. And when he was doing that, he would mess up, and I would correct him. And his instructor came to me after one of his classes, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Mr. Holly, they have to do it 500 times." And I took the point. In other words, what we're talking about here, and the reason I'm bringing that up, is when we talk about particular things, and there's going to be a lot, this can be overwhelming. All the things that are available to do that you can do nowadays. Just don't worry about it. It's Taekwondo. We're going to do it a bunch of times. Let's get the principles. And then we'll proceed from the principles to why we're doing the principles. You'll start gaining understanding as you read things that other people do, as you do your own, as you measure the responses you get. But we'll get started, get results, get better, and get better results. And it definitely is a process, not an event. So people taking notes and writing things down, I just know that it's pretty easy to freak out, and that's not necessary. It's going to happen gradually. So when we talk about making money in a business, we have to be clear right up front, and this is not always the case, that we're in business to make money. Everybody in here in business to make money? Is it ridiculous that I'm talking about that as a purpose? Is it?
No.
Okay. I have clients who I have a client who's been in business for 17 years and has never made money. A little bit. Well, I get my building payment, I charge rent, and I get my car. 17 years and never made money. I'm serious about that. Now, it's a spouse, and the spouse helps put the money in the company and all that, but we have to be clear that the purpose, the reason that we're here is to make money. And if that's not your purpose, there are other things you can market to, but that's the intended purpose of what we're standing here for, okay? So going from the, if you take that as a precept, most people, if you talk about how do I go about making money, here's the model. Right? Sales minus expense equals profit. So if you're looking at your business and you say, wow, I want to start making more money, what options do you have here?
More revenue, less expense.
More revenue or fewer expenses. Exactly. There's a philosophical thing here that I'll just mention in passing. If you reduce your expenses, if saving money is your approach to making more profit, what's the maximum profit you can make?
Whatever your revenue is.
Right. You can take this to zero, and that's all you can do on a cost savings program. I mean, you can quit business, actually.
Right.
So it's rather limited if you approach your business from the standpoint that I want to eliminate expense, because that's not what you went in business for. I don't want to be stupid about expense. I'm not promoting that. If you want to go after the revenue side, what are the possibilities? Unlimited, absolutely. But if you look at the equation this way, revenue minus expense equals profit, we're pretty limited in our thinking. We say, well, let's get this down, but that's not necessarily really good. So let's get this up. How are you going to do that?
Hire more people to leverage their time.
Okay. Hire more people and leverage their time. That's a strategy. The point about this is that this doesn't point to a lot of possibilities. And I want to show you another way. Some of you have been through some of my classes have seen this way before, but another way to think about it that's more useful and turns into something you can actually do something about. We call it the 5 ways. How many of you all have seen that? Anybody in here? Okay. The 5 ways is a way of breaking out revenues and reducing it to profit that gives you the ability to work on something. And it starts out with leads. Okay, I'm hoping people on the camera can read that, but leads times your conversion rate, which is in a percentage, equals customers. Okay, times the number of times that those customers do business with you, that's transactions, times the average dollar sale that they spend on each time they do business with you, equals revenue. Okay? So leads times conversion rate equals customers. Customers times transactions times the average dollar sales equals revenue. Times your percent margin, which we'll talk about all these things, equals your profit. Okay? And we have some real stickler cost accounting people out there. Margins can be different things, but I hope to make this really clear here. Now, why do we go to the trouble of doing that? Let's just put some numbers in, and I'll show you the power of doing this and the power of dividing it out. Okay? If we have, for example, 4,000 leads, and a lead being somebody who knows about your business and has the potential to do business with you. It's not the world population, it's somebody who's heard about your business, has some sort of contact, and you have the opportunity to do business with. And if our conversion rate is 25%, how many customers do we have? 1,000 customers. Correct. And if each one does 2 transactions a year, a period, a month, a year, whatever period we're talking about, and spends $100 each time, what's our revenue? 1,000 times 2 times 100. 200,000. Okay? And if our margin is 25%, what's our profit? 200,000 times 25%. $50,000. Okay, big deal. So we can do some math here. But this is where things get important, and this is where the marketing comes in. Suppose that we came up with strategies to increase our leads by 10%. Okay, how many of you have a marketing plan in here? It was like really none. Do you think if we put in a marketing plan, matter of fact, if we did nothing more but maybe pay attention to it and take business cards with us, that we could increase the people who know about our business by 10%? Right? So we go over here, that would be 4,400. Okay? Conversion rate. Do you think we could increase the conversion rate by 10%? And by that, having scripts, having intentional materials that how we treat people, paying attention to what they care about, and pointing those things out rather than answering the phone and just saying hello. And when I say increase it from 20 to 25%, I don't mean to 35, I mean to 27.5. So how many? Actually, I don't know what this one is. So now we have 1,210 customers. This architect running a calculator. We'll see if we want to go in his buildings or not. So, say if we have, our transactions are 2, could we increase our average number of transactions by 10%? How might you do that?
Yep.
How might you do that?
Ask for add-on sales.
Yeah, or keep a database and contact your customers. How many, I know some of you do, but I'll rhetorically asking people who are watching too, how many of you have a database of all the customers you've ever contacted? And how often do you talk to them or you contact them with something other than invoice? I have a great story. I was at King Copy in Norman, which is the discount copy place down by the campus, last year about this time. And there were boxes and boxes and boxes of envelopes sitting there that had been stuffed, and they'd done that. I said, what's going on? There was a dentist here in town. And this dentist knew everybody's insurance plan, and he knew all the deductibles and everything, and he sent out, I think it was 4,400 letters saying, come in and use up your deductible before the end of the year. Pretty good marketing idea. But it's things like that. Or is anybody paying any attention to that kind of thing? If we take this to 2.2, and I apologize for my penmanship, but that's the way it is. 2.2 visits per year. Average dollar sale. We get it up by 10%. Is that really reasonable? How would you do that?
Raise the prices.
That's one thing. Actually, I put that down here. How about you want fries with that? Upsell. Absolutely. And there's some things that you have to do. This is all part of it, but to make them trust you and want to buy from you on an upsell basis. But if we take this to $110, it's an average sale. What we got there? I actually got it written down because I knew I was going to do this.
You're good.
All right, I'll walk in your building.
That was yeah, and he farms all that stuff out there, the engineer. But right here, by making incremental changes, small incremental changes, we've raised our revenues by nearly 50%, by 45%. Our margins, can we do things to get our margins up by 10%? Okay, that's one where you can raise prices, or you can stop discounting. And we'll talk about that at great length. I have, matter of fact, well, I'll say that for later, but usually when people discount and cut prices, it's your own head trash. It's not the customer never asked for it. But you can begin to manage it, and I'll tell you just mathematically, if you do these things and you don't change your fixed expenses, which is usually not necessary, this will go up to 27.5% anyway, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
Martin, I'd like to come back to that at some time about the discounting, because a lot of programs that I found, like through the Chambers of Commerce and other, they'll give you these free websites where you can put discounts and do advertising, and I've always found that the only thing I could come up with was a discount to
We're
get in that
going
arena.
to spend an entire class on that. Remember, there are 12 classes, and what I'm doing here is an overview. There are not any tests. And what always happens, I have to tell this story because I always do, and some of the people have heard me before, but in New York, at the time Robert Frost lived, which I'm not exactly sure when that was in the 30s, there was a socialite named Elizabeth Peabody, and Robert Frost, the poet, and Elizabeth were leaving a party and walking down a Manhattan street, and Elizabeth walked right into a tree and knocked her over backwards. Robert Frost got down. Elizabeth, are you all right? She says, yes, I am. He said, didn't you see the tree? And she said, yes, I saw it, but I didn't realize it. Okay? Very much, that's what's going to happen here. I mean, that's the intent of what we're doing. We're going to have realizations. And that's why we're not having a 2-day seminar and talking about all the things we're going to talk about over the next 12 sessions. Very much. It is to have realizations. when we talk about something, you will see something. You'll see an article or an ad written, or you'll see some ad campaign going on, and you'll begin to recognize, boy, that's really good, or boy, that guy's an idiot. Boy, they waste their money. But you have to have these realizations, and you can't, in my opinion, have all these realizations in one weekend and then walk out and be a changed person. So maybe it's possible, but that's not our choice of going after. But we'll have a whole class on discounting. What's that? 80,000? Pardon? I knew what the numbers were going to be, and I wrote them on this little. See, that's planning.
You're prepared.
It's a plan. It's part of that
But you had
triangle
a-
deal.
But you had a written plan.
I have a written plan. I do. But the point, I'm sorry my penmanship is bad, but the point is very small incremental changes that, at least sitting in this room, we all could see how we could very easily accomplish, made a huge difference in profit. And then here's one other thing. We did this in 1 year. What are you going to do next year? How about we just do it again, just to show you the power of what we're doing. And I do have these numbers written down. So if we go up another 10%, we're at 48.40, and we're at 30.25, and that's 1,464. And we're here at 2.4 and $121. Anybody want to take a guess at the revenues? Okay. 48.40 if you can't see it on the internet. 30% conversion rates, 1464 per clients, 2.4 transactions, $121. We're now from $200,000 up to $428,000 in revenue. I'm making 10% incremental changes. And yes, I realize that we're multiplying, we're proceeding exponentially, but it is possible, it is doable. 30%, we're at $129,000 more than 2.5%. So 61% and then 61% again. That's what we're doing here. We're looking for these things that we can actually do to get this kind of results. If you were working for yourself and your banker says, "Dadgummit, if you don't double your revenues and double your profits in a year, you guys are done." And you walk out of the office, how am I supposed to do that? This is how you're supposed to do that. Okay? I want to, so everybody got that? Any questions? And of course, you can do it again, right? There's no reason to stop. Okay? I want to put this into a different form that describes how we're going to go about things. And this is where my art ability maybe gets a little tough here, but I want to put it in a flow, okay? And this is going to lend the skeleton to what we're going to be doing over the next number of weeks. But one of the first things you have to do if you want to get customers and make a profit is you have to attract leads, right? So you can do a mail-out campaign, you can do networking, you can do Google AdWords, you can do Facebook, you can do email blast. I guess I'm going to make this one with a little stamp here and this one not. You can go to golf tournaments, networking, all the things that you do to attract, let's call it traffic at this point. Okay? So these are all strategies, things that you have to do to attract, generate traffic. People become aware of you. And what you're doing, you can, that's a little magnet. It's a pretty good one, don't you think? You're attracting them into your sales machine, whatever that sales machine is, however it is. And there's just a fact that generally takes 7 contacts. You hear different things, 5 to 7, but 7 contacts with a person before they become a customer, with a lead. Agreed, any disagreement with that? Okay. The progression, people have heard me say this before, but the progression to a customer is that they must know, like, trust, try, buy. Get to know you, get to like you. I guess maybe they can like you, then get to know you and trust you. They like a means to try whatever it is. Kathy, in real estate, it's a little hard to try buying a house, but they're still, the concept is there, and if there's a way they can try, and it's a test. And test you and see that the trust is really there. But know, like, trust, try, buy is the progression. And generally, it takes 7 contacts with people to do that. Okay? What happens in most marketing efforts, sales efforts, is 1 or 2 contacts and they're out. Okay? If that. Okay? If they do that, then they come out and they are a customer. And at that point, you have to fulfill whatever it is that you sold to them. So they're a buyer here, you fulfill, they come out the other end, satisfied customer, haven't paid you money. Okay? Now the opportunities are there for them to upsell and buy again, this being to buy again, okay? And for them to get you referrals. Okay? So graphically speaking, that is a marketing life cycle. Make sense? Anybody see something needs to be added or subtracted? Because I'm willing to discuss anything. What really happens is, in reality, as we go through, I saw a guy do this for Infusionsoft. I just like, there's a little hole, and a lot of potential traffic drops out because our message isn't right. We're not going to the right place. We're not targeting the right targets. Whatever it is, this is not well designed. How many of you put an ad in the Yellow Pages? Okay. Everybody did not too long ago. I still have clients who do, and I get to be a hero because I can pay my first 2 months fee immediately by going, stop the Yellow Pages, if they're not working for you. But anyway, not going about this right, all these opportunities. Then what also happens is, let's say you do go about it right. You have something attractive, an AdWords campaign, an email blast, an ad in the paper, or the Yellow Pages, and you attract some traffic to your marketing machine, which might be, let's talk about a website, okay? Because that's certainly going to be part of it. And people come to your website, and here's another black hole. They drop out, they bounce off. Anybody here have a website where you keep your metrics on it? How many new unique user hits do you have a month?
Probably about 1,000.
1,000? How many clients you get out of that?
Probably 40 or 50.
Clients?
Yeah.
A month?
Yeah.
Rock and roll, I want to work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. That's not helping me make my point. No, I hear a lot that, oh, I've got this great website, I'm getting all this traffic. And I say, who is it? Can you market to them? Well, I don't know. It's IP address 191.55.7741, whatever, legitimate. And it bounces off, and it's lost because they did not elect to enter your funnel. They just bounced off. That doesn't mean that there's not some value there, and we'll talk a great deal about branding and what we call investment advertising, which most of us won't be doing. But we would rather capture them and begin to take them through the funnel and through our system. Okay? So that's another place where potential business drops out. Another place, once we've got them through here, typically we have a statistic that 65% of people who cease doing business with you do so because of perceived indifference. Okay? We've got a whole stat, and I don't have it all memorized, excuse me, but 1% died, 3% moved, you know, a certain amount of percent their brother-in-law starts selling insurance and they buy from him and so on. But most people leave because they don't have any particular attachment to you. So we lose a tremendous amount of prospective business right here because we don't market to customers that we already have. Okay? And if we lose that, we certainly lose this. These being the referrals that are available to us. Does it make sense what I'm talking about? If you put that back in the context of the 5 ways, this is going to be the lead generation. This is the conversion rate. This is going to be the number of transactions and the average dollar sale, the upsell. This is feeding back to here, but it's a multiplying effect of all these things going together that's really going to make the difference in how we do it. So as we go forward, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at this, how to attract people to whatever your marketing machine is, and a lot of it can be internet, doesn't have to be. We're going to look at how to move people through the funnel without dropping them out, without making them mad, without spamming them. We're going to look at how to, this is your operations of your company, but we have to make sure that we fulfill their desires and what we promised so that they're a satisfied customer. We're going to sell them again, we're going to upsell them, and then we're going to specifically ask them for referrals, and we'll reward them. One of the things when I ask companies, what is your marketing plan? What do you do to attract leads? What's the number one answer I get? I get it every time.
Networking.
Okay, referrals. Yeah, absolutely. And I said, great, what's your referral plan? And what do I hear? Same thing I'm hearing right now. So what we're talking about is that this vital, most important part of your business is completely left to chance.
It's true.
Okay? So I hope that the awareness of, hey, you know, it really is left to chance, that at least in an overview, that this makes sense, that we're going to start plugging these holes with strategies that keep the people in our system and keep them coming. Okay? So how are we doing on
You know, I had, when we were setting up this the other day, you talked a little bit about this, and I had a conversation with somebody that really helped me understand this. I've been trying to work with a little Latino newspaper that keeps coming in the office, and I keep giving her quotes on websites and stuff like this, and she's popped in about 5 or 6 times, and you know, the comment was made when I first thought about it that she had popped in the office again. I kind of thought to myself, well, she's never gonna do anything. But then I remembered this model, and I was like, I don't think I'm quite at the 7th level yet, at the 7th step. You know, I've still got some more work to do. So it kind of reassured me that don't give up. It's not necessarily a case of we're not doing things right, that they might not be comfortable enough to make that sale.
know, like, trust, try, buy.
Yeah.
What I always say is if it's a pair of red shoes in the window, it can be an impulse buy. Walking by it, okay, but it's of no significance. If it's consultative sales, which everybody in this room certainly is, and everybody here is, almost everybody here is, there has to be a relationship built up. One of the advantages of knowing that, know, like, trust, try, buy, is that when you are networking, if you are of the mind that I have to sell this guy or this lady, and that's what you're doing, and my life depends on it, and my future depends on it, and you become the stereotypical salesman. I always enjoy in my classes, I say right now 5 words to describe a salesman. What do I hear?
All negative.
Pushy, snake, jerk. And I say, now how many of you make your living depending on either you directly or on somebody else selling it? Everybody. Absolutely everybody, including Paul. I mean, everybody does. And that's the opinion that we have of salespeople. So, I mean, it's just kind of interesting. If you are a desperate person and think I have to have this sale and skip the know, like, trust, try, then what you're going to wind up with is you're going to be that stereotypical person. If you understand where you are in the process, and that the first thing is that this person gets to know me, they come to trust me, how would you get people to trust
Just their interaction, meeting them, talking with them.
And set an appointment and show up.
Yep.
Set 2 appointments and show up. Boy, it's amazing. And show up on time. Casey and I have been working together not that long, but I've come to trust him. This is the first time I've said this in front. Come to trust him. He has never been to one of our meetings where he didn't beat me there. And we meet at Starbucks in Bricktown. And one time I got there and I thought, ha, I beat him. He came walking out of the bathroom. It makes a difference.
Yep.
No, we still don't know. I mean, we haven't been years and years, but it makes a difference. So when you understand where you are in the progression, you understand what your job is at this time. It's not to sell this guy something, it's to get to know him, find out about him, earn their trust, and then we're moving through the progression. So that's when we get up here. I'm going to tell a little bit about what we're doing going forward, and then hopefully maybe we can turn the sound on. But there are going to be principles. Remember I said we're talking the view from maybe 50,000 feet, this flow chart, all that kind of stuff. Then we're going to go to 30,000 feet and have some principles about what marketing is and how to think about it. Okay? Then we'll get down to real specifics, how to write a headline. And as I like to say that we're in the day of the internet, of course. But a guy, Claude Hopkins, who wrote Scientific Advertising and My Life in Advertising in the 1920s, he is the guy who invented coupons. And many of the companies that you know, he brought them to prominence. Van Camps, which is getting kind of old, but Pork and Bean, Goodyear, Colgate. I mean, these guys were his clients, and he brought them to prominence. And he did testing and measuring and found out what worked and what didn't work. But one of the things he said back in 1927 was your headline has 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention. After that, they're gone. Well, guess what Google AdWords tells you?
Half of that.
Actually, they say the same. They go 7 seconds, yeah. And it might be half. And that's getting very specific, but we'll definitely get into that level. If you have something that causes people to go to your website and it refers to Dalmatian, information about Dalmatian dogs, and you go, oh, I like Dalmatian dogs, and you go there, and it's a website about dog food, and you got 7 seconds to give them what you told them you were going to give them, or they're out of there. My point being, even though we're the internet and it's all new, it's still a lot the same. Okay? But one of the first principles that we're going to talk about is buying customers. And this isn't all going to be today, but this is what we'll talk about. ROI, which stands for return on investment. Okay? That's the #1 principle. 2, target markets. So when we start talking about marketing to somebody, that's one of the problems that was always there with the Yellow Pages. Your target market basically was whatever city it was, had a phone. And that worked for a while, but you can spend tens of thousands, millions of dollars marketing to the general public. And much better, if I'm a business coach and I love manufacturing of heavy equipment, which I am and I do, and I'm very good at that, and I want to talk about how to manage companies like that. So why do I advertise on KTOK radio, which I don't? I shouldn't. I should find out who. I've already refined it a bunch. I want to sell to heavy metal manufacturers. I want to sell to heavy metal manufacturers in Oklahoma. I want to sell to manufacturers within 50-mile radius of Norman, Oklahoma. I want to sell to manufacturers who have between $1 million and $35 million in sales, because those kind of people don't have a CFO and maybe don't have systems. Anyway, I bring it all the way down. Then I get down to 25 businesses, and I have their address. Now I'm marketing. Okay, and that's an exercise, but it can be done. 3, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And it's taking the customer's perspective in everything you do. Okay? When you're marketing, most common thing is to have as the headline for your ad, whether it's a Google AdWord or in the paper, the name of your company. Yes, who cares about that? You, your husband, your mom and dad. Nobody else. Why would you stop to read something where the headline is the name of your company? Okay? This is a subtle thing, but this is major league. When you begin to see through the customer's eyes and you answer their questions or answer their concerns, that's part of the know, like, trust, try, buy. Answer their concerns before they become major issues, before they ask about them. Boy, you start getting a raving fan. Okay? Your offer. What is it? One of the things I really love to do, and actually we'll do in this class, is I'll hold up an ad and I'll say, what's the offer here? What are you doing? And sometimes the answer, and this is the bailout, is I'm doing branding. Now, branding is a little more relevant to you, Kathy, because people don't necessarily need to buy real estate today.
Right.
But what branding is name recognition advertising. And what it really is I'm going to spend money, but I'm not expecting to get anything back. How smart is that? Okay? If you're Coca-Cola, you brand, they'll spend $100, well, that's up here buying your customers. They'll spend $100 to acquire a customer who will buy a $2 Coke, but they can afford to sit there and wait during that customer's lifetime when he or she will buy 1 million Cokes. Okay? None of my clients are there. If we're gonna put out $1,000 in a marketing campaign, we want 2,000 back. Okay? So, what is your offer? What are you trying to do, and how is it going to give you a return on investment? You can do branding with offers, because if you have real things out there, Kathy, you talked about rental properties for sale and how great it is. That's a fantastic headline. You want to make, 20% return on investment backed by real estate. Let me show you how as little as $7,000 gets you started. Man, if I'm in that market, I'm going to read that. I'm going to find out, oh, it's Kathy. So you're branding there, but you don't just put Kathy up there. Call me, because there are 35 of them or 75 of them upstairs doing the same thing, right? So, AIDA. I believe this is another one of Claude Hopkins, but it's attention, interest, desire, and action. Okay, and whatever you're doing in your marketing, that's what we're going to be after. You have to grab your attention. That's the headline thing. You have to have something that gets their interest. You have to have something that creates desire, and then you have to have a call to action. It's another fun thing. Whenever you write any type of marketing material, you should be thinking, what do I want the reader or listener to do the moment they finish reading this ad? I mean, that's what call now, and but try to find clever ways to do that, but a call to action. KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators. Yesterday, I was with a client who's on here, I hope they're on here right now, in Fairview, and she said, should I continue this advertising campaign? Shane, should she? I don't know. And neither do I. Actually, we talked about it, and Ms. Laura's probably laughing, hopefully she's on this. But, should I continue this expenditure? Am I getting a return on my investment? If you don't know, how do you make the decision? Right? This is kind of pedestrian stuff. I think people understand that principle, but how many really do it? That rhetorical question. In my experience, really nobody does. Okay? But you have to find a way to measure what's happening with your market. Okay? And then test and measure is the same thing as KPIs, except it's the act of doing it. This is what you're going to record, and this is the act of looking at it, see what it costs you, and making decisions. And again, this is the kind of thing where you start out, your ads will be wrong. I mean, they won't be optimum. You'll have things that you have to change, but as you test and measure, they'll get incrementally better, and at the end of the year, you're going to be light years ahead of where you are, hopefully, today. So that's really it for today, except for this. This is your homework. I don't know, does that show up on the camera? This will be on the website, but it is basically that 5 ways sheet that I worked the three examples on. And you should print this and make an effort to do it. In other words, it's sitting here, I want to fill in the number of leads that I get. How many people, I give you, I mean, as you do this, you will say, well, how am I supposed to do that? That's the exercise. We're learning how to do it. I can't, I mean, I'm happy to email me, I'll give you suggestions, but one way to do it is, and we've got some pretty big companies on here, and it's a little different for them, but basically, this is one way to do it. How many, start doing it.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, okay? That's contacts. How many became customers? Bought something, sometimes life cycle bought. It doesn't matter that this guy is somebody who called yesterday, it doesn't matter, on a day, okay? Over a period of time, and it's, oh, well, what if that guy hung up and called me back? I don't care. Just do the same thing all the time. Start getting some data, okay? This is starting to give you a conversion rate. Then we start doing some advertising and some marketing later on, and all of a sudden, you'll notice a difference. But if you don't have a baseline, you can't tell. And if you can't tell, you cannot make management decisions. Period. If you don't measure it, you don't manage it. That was Ed Drucker. Actually, what he really said was, in God we trust, all else pretty data. But it's been interpreted. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Okay? So begin collecting the data. This thing might show you two things. One, that you're spending too much on something. But what else could it show you?
Not enough.
Not enough. Right. That you're not spending enough money on other campaigns. Because when you get your marketing humming, you have an unlimited marketing budget. And everybody's looking and nodding, including me. But when you really go to write $30,000, $40,000, $80,000, $100,000 check a month, you go, oh, yep, I get it, I understand, but I'm never doing that. If it's really working and you really know it, you have no problem doing it. Okay? So this is the homework assignment. And please email if you have questions about it. But fill that out and take a stab. And as you start to fill it out, you are going to be asking, you're going to, well, what, how do I know that? Average dollar sale. If you're keeping, and these will point deficiencies too. If you don't know how many customers you have, because all you have is a checkbook and you write your money in there, it's going to be hard to get the average dollar sale per customer, right? So it starts to point to some things we need to work on. Okay. So anyway, that is the presentation. Are there any questions?
You talked about referrals. Are you going to spend more time? Because that's one thing I struggle with is how to do that properly and effectively.
Why do you, I'm truly curious, why do you say proper, and you want to open that door? I know how hot it is, guys, I'm sorry. The people who are not, yeah. Why do you say properly and effectively?
Well,
Effectively, I get properly.
for me, when I'm dealing with financial, it's a very personal thing to folks. So asking for the referral feels intrusive, and then they're hesitant to give it when they're talking about other folks' financial issues as well.
I appreciate that comment. Can people hear what that's saying? Okay. One thing, it feels intrusive. To whom?
It's probably my internal thoughts.
Yeah. And yeah, great. That's part of marketing too. Let's unload that. I call it head trash, but I see it all the time, and I have experienced it, believe me, all the time. There is a way to present things responsibly, openly, honestly, and absolutely we'll work on it. One of the things that we will be looking for is an advocate for you as a referrer. Is somebody, and this is my little metaphor, who goes to a Texas Hold'em card game, and somebody sitting across the table before the deal says, hey, I need an insurance guy. And well, I know one, Brian McPherson, who's not here, but he's on the camera. Oh, great. Well, I'm an advocate. A raving fan is somebody who sits down at that same card game and says, hey, wait a minute. Before we deal, does anybody need an insurance guy? And what do you do to make some, I mean, you can pay them, there are, I mean, all kinds of things, but we say that's what we want, and we start thinking that's possible, what do I have to do to make that possible? So it starts with thinking that it is possible, and then we have to find ways to do it. And the stuff that we'll talk about in here might or might not do it for you. I mean, we have to try it, and we have to test and measure it, see what works. And if it doesn't, we try something else, but it always gets incrementally better. Casey will talk about this stuff, but AdWords, I don't know, does everybody know what Google AdWords is? It's, well, you will. It's the things that show up on the side when you do a Google search and there's paid ads. You're always running at least two, always running at least two. And they're just very simple. There's a headline, there's a tagline, you know, houses for, or great, 20% return on investment, $7,500 minimums, Kathy Griffin, real estate. You run another one that says, well, you maybe just change word, but one of them will outperform the other every time. And you just keep that one and put up another one. And it's not huge stuff. I mean, the study, I mean, once you're getting zeroed in, sometimes putting a comma in makes a big difference. And you go, why would that be? And you don't know. But you just constantly, Kaizen, constantly getting better, better, better. So, but thanks. Anybody? So, anybody else? Kelsey? Okay. Well, we'll sign off then. Or Kathy? Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Those meetings are weekly,